All right, the final game for Friday night. It's the two new entries to the Big 12 doing battle here, Cincinnati and BYU. We have BYU 3-point home favorites, 49.5, 50 the total. Both of them played Big 12 conference games last week. BYU losing at Kansas, Cincinnati losing at home against Oklahoma. Tough matchups. I figured Cincinnati was not going to be able to do well with Oklahoma. And actually, defensively, I thought they played okay, but their offense could not move the football against a much improved Oklahoma defense.
They moved it, though. They couldn't score. They missed a couple field goals. That was rough to watch.
They couldn't finish drives. They did. They had some yardage on offense, but you're right. They could not finish drives. And again, only ending up with 6 points in the loss against Oklahoma. BYU shredded on defense once again. And anytime they face a capable offense, there's just not that same defense. Kalani Sitake just does not have a great defense. I mean, anytime they've played a good offense this year, they've given up 69 points to the combination of Kansas and Arkansas. And remember, before that, they played Southern Utah and Sam Houston State, who we've already talked about. It's one of the worst, maybe, offense in college football right now. So I don't think this BYU defense is great. They don't have the athleticism they've had in the past. I've noticed that. I will say this. Keaton Slovis has played decent football the last 2 weeks, although he's still not a quarterback that I'm fully enamored with, as far as BYU is concerned. I think when you look at BYU as well going into this matchup, when you look at them, they haven't been able to run the ball here, BYU. This is incredible. This is a team that's pounded the rock. Physicality, especially along the offensive line. And look what they're doing running the ball this year. 61.2 rushing yards per game, 2.2 yards per carry. Last I checked, Kansas is an okay defense, but it's not great. I think you could put Arkansas into that same boat. And then they face two easy opponents, and yet they still can't run the football, BYU, going into this game. And Cincinnati's run defense has only given up 3.5 yards per carry. So my thinking here is, if they can't run the football well, that's a problem. That's a concern for me here going against this Cincinnati team. I've been anti-BYU much of the season. I've not been, really wanting to back this team, and I'm not laying 3 with BYU here. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get there with Cincinnati, but I'm definitely leaning to the Bearcats here in this matchup, getting 3 points in this game. I think the critical thing to watch for is Cincinnati's offense got humbled last week by Oklahoma. Let's not forget that. But before that, we'd seen this offense perform at a reasonably solid level, and it's a quarterback that's been around the block. Talking about Emory Jones, who was once at Florida, if you'll remember, briefly at Arizona State as well. And the numbers on the season here for Emory Jones, 62% completions, solid enough numbers so far from him. He's had 7 touchdowns, has had 5 interceptions. 2 of them came against Oklahoma. He does need to take better care of the football, but his athleticism at the quarterback spot, like I say, I just don't see athleticism on this BYU team compared to what they've had in years past. So that could be a problem for the Cougars in this game. So right now, leading Cincy +3, even though, Friday night home game, BYU's never an easy venue, but I just don't think all that highly right now of BYU compared to past years. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, that Cincinnati to get that cover with the hook they did move the ball. And on the flip side with the defense, you mentioned Emory Jones made some mistakes. They could have made some kicks, and they just, in the end couldn't score points. The defense kind of got gashed, but they made enough stops, at times in that Oklahoma game where, they did give up a ton of yards, but had some big plays. They still have a pretty good defensive line, the Cincinnati. I got to think, you talked about BYU not running the football. I think they're just going to throw it here, and that's where they'll find success. I look to the total in this game, here at 50 or so, I look over. These teams have gotten there, and I know they didn't score a bunch, but I think BYU and Slovis can throw it a little bit, and I think Emory Jones and his team will score more points than 6, and we could get this game over.
I think there's something to that. I would certainly not talk anyone out of the over here because, look, I know BYU or Cincinnati's game last week stayed under the total, but they did move the ball. There was yardage for Cincinnati. It's just that they had trouble finishing drives. They missed some field goals. The 4th down conversion failures, they had a couple of those as well. Against a really good defense, and I don't think BYU's defense is anywhere close to Oklahoma, and we've seen that on display the last 2 weeks. So that 50.5, it's actually 49.5, 50, in a lot of books right now. I could see going over the total here.
And they ran it. Kansas ran for like 220.
Yeah.
On BYU. Cincinnati should be able to run it with Emory Jones and the running back. So.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the over could be in play there, no question.